Hello guys, today I'm going to cover what is descriptive programming in QTP and why we use it. So as everyone knows, this symbol stands for object repository, right? So if you see right now, I have added two objects in the object repository. One is the Google browser and the second one is the Google page, right? And let me add one more object. Let's say this web edit box. Right, so I have these three objects in my object repository. So how do I plan here is, like, before we go into the details of descriptive programming, let's try and understand how QTP works with the help of object repository first. So as you can see, I have taken this object repository over here on the left hand side of my QTP panel. I'll just drag drop this particular object over here and I'll perform, let's say, learn QTP, right? And if you run this script, so as usual QTP will perform this set action on that particular web edit box, right? As you can see here, QTP has set the learned QTP value in this web edit box, right? So this is how QTP works with the help of object repository. It tries and reaches to this particular object with the help of the parents object, right? And these are the properties which this QTP takes into consideration at the time of hitting this object. So for this web edit box, I have text type as text property, then name, and then HTML tag. So these are the three description properties which QTP has used for the identification of this object, right? Now, how QTP decides, on what basis it decides that if it's a web edit box, I'm going to use these three properties. So that is something which we configure in object identification. So as you can see, I have launched this window from tools and object identification. Okay, right. So if you see here, for web-based environment, and if I select the web edit over here, so if you can see in the mandatory properties, I have configured these three properties over here, that is HTML tag, name, and type, right? So what QTP does, whenever I add these type of object in QTP OR, it primarily captures these three properties as mandatory properties. We can call them as even description properties as well. Okay, and this is how we enable the smart identification for this particular type of object, or we can disable and so on. So if you see, these three properties are captured by QTP OR over here. Okay, let me launch OR again to show the same. So if you see, for this web edit box, I have used these three properties over here. So this is how QTP works as through object repository. So now let's talk about what is descriptive programming. I would say it is one of the feature which QTP supports for performing different actions on user controls, right? So what does it mean? So descriptive programming, as its name suggests, wherein we would be creating, or we would be defining the properties of object at runtime. Now what does it mean? So if you do object spy on this particular web edit object, you see a lot of properties over here, right? So I have name, then I have outer HTML, then I have class name, I have HTML tag, and so on. So if I know the properties of object, why can't I define these properties at runtime and can use or can perform some actions on this object at runtime only, right? So let's say for our understanding, I'm going to use two properties of this particular object. One is, I feel it's my own judgment that the name of this particular web edit will be the unique property, and let's say the HTML tag, right? So these two properties I feel that are quite unique to perform or to identify this object through QTP. So I'm going to describe this object with these two properties, right? Now let's see how do we describe it. So I'll define the object. Let's say I'll call it a search edit box. Okay, this is the object name, right? And I'll say description dot create. Okay, this is how we define the description object over here, right? So search edit box is my description object. Now I will define what properties. Oops, sorry. Now in the next step I'm going to use, let's say, HTML tag I'm interested in. Its value equals to input, right? That's what we have seen in the object spy. So this is the one property which I want to use for the description of the object, and the second one is name, which again I know the value of this name property is q, right? So now what I feel is with these two properties can very well describe my edit box, right? This edit box. So this is how I have defined my object to descriptive programming, right? Now let's try to perform some action on this particular object. Now how do we use it? So as you know, I know the browser and page object. Then using child objects property, we can utilize, or we can fetch this description object. Sorry. So as you can see, browser is my parent, page is my child, and then child objects, and then inside this child objects I have defined my description object, right, which is search edit box. That's it. And again you tag it as a, you define it as a object. Again set, let's say, my edit, my search, right? Got it? Now once I have defined this object, I'm going to get the count of message box objects of such type. I just want to show you how many objects will come across having this type of description. So that is the reason I wanted to show you what is the count of such objects. And let's say for I equals to 0 to, let's say, whatever number of object I get, I want to set value inside those edit boxes, right? So I'll say this, then let's say the first one, right? And set is the property to set the value inside an edit box, and then I'll search for the QTP learn text. Okay, so let's run this script one by one, or rather I'll run it in one go without putting any breakpoints over here. So as you can see, object of such type is 1. Now what does it mean? Whatever search edit box I had defined over here, having HTML tag as input and name as q, so QTP has found just one object of such type, right? And if you can see, I have the QTP has performed QTP learn search on this particular edit box. Correct? So this is how QTP works in this mode. So what it has done is it has searched for, using child objects method, it has searched for those objects, and then using this for next loop I have accessed these objects one by one. So this is the one way of doing, this is the one way of descriptive programming. Now let me quickly explain you the other way as well, wherein we can straight away define the object's properties in our script itself. Now how, let's see. So again I'm going to browse this, let's say this particular web edit box. So I do see a browser over here, page, web table and web edit. I don't need web table in order to reach to this web edit button. So let's see, for this browser, let's go through the properties first. So I do see the name over here is Google, right? Fine. So this one property I'll keep in my mind. Then for page, again the title, I think this is the unique property, so Google is this. And for web edit, as you know, name and HTML tag, these are the unique properties. Okay. Now in second descriptive programming approach, I can straight away define these properties. For example, name equals to Google, then I have page, title equals to Google, right? And then I have web edit, oops, sorry, whose HTML tag is input and name is Q, right? And set is the property QTP learn. Okay, so what I have done over here is I have straight away defined the properties of each object in the script itself. Rather than defining the description object, I have defined name equals to Google for the Google browser, then title equals to Google for a Google page, and then for the web edit, Google search web edit, I have defined HTML tag equals to input, name equals to Q, and set is the method which I'm going to perform on this particular object, right? Now let's try and run this. I'll do run from step. Got it? So this is how the second approach of descriptive programming works. That's it, friends. So these were the two approaches of the descriptive programming in QTP. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it has cleared the concept of descriptive programming in QTP. Thanks again.